I have always been civil with my half-brother. We were close as kids, but he started to have an attitude at 13 and pretty much stopped being nice, and started messing with my things / making fun of me and doing pranks to annoy me / privacy, was gone with him coming into my room and taking my things. Whenever I complained, my stepmom would normalize his behavior and make excuses. My dad never really grounded him and thought that talking to him will get him to behave better. I'm currently in college. I live in a rented apartment and have car to help me get to the university or other places. The car isn't expensive or fancy at all. I saved up for it 2 years ago. I decided to have Christmas dinner with my family. It's the perfect opportunity to be with family since I haven't seen my dad in a while. I arrived at my dad's house and left my purse and my keys on the kitchen island after my stepmom told me to help with dinner. My half-brother started talking about my car in the kitchen while my stepmom was listening and asked if he could take it for a couple of hours to hang out with friends. I politely told him no. He threw a fit and brought up how I needed to relax and not worry, but my answer was still the same. While we were sitting at the dinner table, my half-brother got up, washed his hands, and I thought he went outside. I got busy talking to my dad, and after I got up to wash my hands, I noticed my car keys weren't there. I went outside to ask him, and neither he nor my car were there. I lost it. I started calling his phone, but he hung up on me several times. I was furious. I told my dad I'd call the police if he didn't come back with the car. My stepmom jumped to defend him and said I was being unreasonable to call the police. I called him one last time, then I called the police. My stepmom freaked out when my half-brother got picked up by the police. She told me to go explain the situation to the authorities, otherwise he'd spend the night in jail. But I refused, especially since I still hadn't got my car back. Stepmom yelled that I ruined dinner and that it was no big deal. He was going to return it after borrowing it from me, but he didn't really borrow it, and she heard me say no. I don't know what she told the police, but I didn't give permission to use the car. My stepmom's side of family are mad at me for doing this to my brother and hinted that I don't consider him family. My dad's side of family sided with me, saying he deserved it. My dad said I overreacted and I shouldn't have called the police when he disappeared for 4 hours. I talked to the police about what happened, and I learned later that my stepmom said that her son was allowed to borrow it, and that it was a misunderstanding. I wasn't going to let her continue to lie, but my dad told me to back off and let it go. This really upset me. My half-brother wasn't even berated the way I was by the family. I live in an apartment on the ground floor of a house that was converted to apartments. My neighbors, one street over, but the back of their house faces the back of the house I live in, can see my whole backyard and vice versa. My apartment has a whole wall of windows that are on the back of the house. It's gorgeous and is a big reason I picked the place. I love keeping plants and it let in a lot of light. Looking out, there is the neighbor's backyard, which is large and comes up close to my place. The property line is maybe 10 or 15 feet from my windows. Once it has gotten to be warm out, I've noticed the husband of the family who owns that house looking into my apartment a lot. Even sometimes I'll look up and see him, look away, then look back minutes later and he's still looking. So I started shutting the shades during the day, but that was kind of annoying. My place is a dark, cramped shoebox without the windows open. And I can't do that for too long because the plants were struggling without light, so I bought these window coverings that make windows into one-way mirrors. During the day when it is light out, my windows look just like mirrors now. From the inside it looks pretty much the same. The windows look tinted slightly darker, but that's it. From the outside you can't see in at all. It looks exactly like mirrors. The section of windows it's applied to is about 8 feet high and 20 feet wide. After a week of the window coverings being up, both of the parents from the neighbor's house came to my door and wanted to talk to me. The wife was complaining about the windows for a lot of reasons. 1, they were ugly too. It was uncomfortable, especially for the teens and their friends, to have a huge mirror adjacent to the swimming pool. It's at a time that they feel insecure about looks and they have lost interest in hanging out by the pool. 3, in the afternoon and evening, it was reflecting a lot of extra sunlight into their backyard. They couldn't enjoy eating dinner on the back porch with the sun in their eyes. I said sorry about the inconvenience, but I wanted it for privacy. They both pushed back on that some, and I said that I needed privacy because of the husband starting. He started denying it in front of his wife, and so I took out my phone where I'd taken pictures and sent it to my group of friends. and showed her a couple pic tires of him gaping at my apartment and the texts from that time. He got mad and said he incidentally looked over, and the 8-foot by 20-foot mirror was a crazy overreaction. I said that I'd like to keep it, and that I was sorry, but frankly this was avoidable. I think they're both mad because they called my landlord, who brushed them off. I am a 30-years-old male, and I got married 2 weeks ago. I was married before, but it ended after I found out that my older brother Thomas, 34 years old, got involved with my first wife. It was devastating because we were close and had a great relationship. I also helped him so much while he was struggling, and seeing how he repaid me hurts to this very day. I stopped talking to him, and Mom and Dad forced me to keep it a secret, and because I was too weak to argue with them, I just kept my own distance. Then I met my now wife. My family loved and embraced her as their own. Mom and Dad treat her like a queen, which helped repair and solidified my relationship with them. However, as the wedding was approaching, they told me they expected me to invite Thomas. I of course refused, but they kept guilting me about what the relatives and other guests would think and say when they don't see Thomas there. I fought with them about it till the day of the wedding. Turned out they'd invited him behind my back, but I found out and stopped them in time. They came to the wedding looking pissed, asking what we were going to tell people when they ask about Thomas. I told them I'd take care of it. And what I did was take a moment while everyone was paying attention, grabbed the mic and flat out announced this and said, "The reason I didn't invite Thomas to my wedding is because I was worried he'd steal my now wife just like he stole the first one." I said it playfully to not make it sound so tense, but most of the guests looked shocked and started mumbling. Then it went awkwardly quiet for a moment. Then we moved on, but I saw Mom and Dad walk out while looking at me grudgingly. Later they started lashing out about how I just exposed Thomas and caused him to be shunned by the family in the most hideous of ways. I told them that I already said I didn't want him there, yet they tried to push him on me repeatedly, saying, "What are people going to say?" So I told them the reason why he wasn't there in a playful way, but they, the guests, still got the message. Mom started yelling about how everyone will now look down on and shun Thomas. She called me pathetic and cruel for still punishing him and gradually ruining his life despite him apologizing and trying to reconcile, but in my opinion, some things are just unforgivable. We've been on horrible terms since then. My wife said at least now they're off my back about what people would say about not inviting him. I've been out of the closet since I was 17, in 2007. When I came out, people in my family said some pretty hurtful things, which I totally expected. Being from a Southern Baptist family, and God, it hurts to admit this, but my older brother at the time seemed very receptive, surprisingly. He told me that if my dad ever gave me any trouble, to call him and he'd talk to him. That was really the last time we talked about it. Flash forward 13 years, I'm 30, and I'm getting married to my fiancé Scott next year in April, if COVID so graciously allows. I started putting a package together of fun things from my brother and I's childhood, all with the intention of asking him to be my best man. However, he called me 2 weeks ago, claiming he's wanted to talk to me about this for a long time. He went into the long tangent about how being gay is wrong and isn't what God wants. He said he thinks Scott is a nice guy and he loves me, but he doesn't think it's right that we're getting married. It was quite a shock, as Scott and I have stayed with him multiple times when we visit my hometown. To top it off, and what hurts perhaps the most, he said my 3-year-old niece, whom we adore, won't be coming to the wedding because he didn't want to have to explain to her what was going on here. Notice he only said that she wasn't coming to the wedding. I think he fully expected to still be invited after this. His wife, whom he started dating when I was 12, feels the same apparently. My whole dad's side of the family feels the same way they do, but I've already written them off mostly in my mind. My mother is beyond pissed and upset at them. I think what upsets me the most is a sense of betrayal. They were my safe spot in the family. I felt like because they're close to my age and younger and went to college, they would understand and it wouldn't be a big deal to them. I almost feel a bit embarrassed because Scott comes from a wonderful Italian Catholic family and they've never been anything less than loving and supportive. I told them that, on what is supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, if they or anyone else is sitting in the audience and in the back of their mind thinking that what we're doing is wrong or not right, they should just stay home. I know my brother and family love me, but it feels up to a point, conditional, and limited. I told them that they learned being gay is wrong, they weren't born not liking gay people. So they can unlearn it, if they were willing. But I don't think that's going to happen.